Check. There we go. That's the one that's working. Alright, sorry, I'm running a little bit late. Let me get my headphones on. We'll be ready to go. Welcome to Versus with Leader. Today's contender is the Elektron Analog Four mk1. Of course, it was just called the Elektron Analog Four when it first came out. But eventually they made more. So they made a second one, I should say. Well, and they also made a keys version too. So I think the general consensus is they all vary just a little bit in the overall kind of sonic, usually around the bass frequencies is what I've been told. I've never had one to compare. You know, I've definitely heard people say this doesn't have a whole lot of bass to it, but I feel like you can get a lot of bass out of it. Just to kind of overview real quick, we have 4-part monotimbral synthesizer. Basically you get, 4-part monophonic synthesizer. It's actually multitimbral. Each one of these tracks right here, out of these 4, represents the entire synth engine. You can do an entire patch, sequencer, trigs, P-locks, you know, the whole works on each one of these tracks. You can also engage a setting in the system, kind of buried down in there, that will let you effectively turn this into a monosynthesizer. A polysynthesizer. And so, hopefully I didn't just start now. Well, I guess it doesn't matter because there's no views. So, yeah, you can turn it into a full-on polysynth. I honestly never do that because I love having the individual voices, and there's a sort of a trick to turn, to kind of get essentially like a 4-voice sound, similar to what you can kind of do with the chord machine on the Syntact and the modal cycles. Very similar to that. So let me dial some things in here real quick. Let me just play this real quick. It was kind of loud in my ears, but it doesn't look like it was too loud for the audience. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So it's like a little funk jam I threw together. Just want to make sure all that was dialed in correctly. I kind of got a late start here. Check. There we go. All right. Oh man, that looks horrible. Yeah, I need to upgrade my second camera or my overhead camera, or I mean, my overhead camera is actually decent. It's not horrible, but the lighting in this guy, I need to get a specific camera just for getting the screen because you can barely see what that says. But anyway, this is the Elektron Analog Four. It is a really cool synthesizer. It has some awesome little tricks. They have added a bunch of stuff to it over the years too, which Elektron is known for. But basically, like I was saying, you have 4 monophonic synth engines. They can be turned into polyphonic, but we're not going to talk about that today. You have an FX link chain as well, and then you have a CV, which is for controlling control voltage, like old school synthesizers or Eurorack. I use it with my Behringer ARP, the BARP. It's pretty cool. It's actually really great. And they eventually, very late in the game, finally added MIDI external control with this, so you can actually use that CV if you don't really have any CV here, if you're just not using it at that point. You can use it as a dedicated MIDI track too, which is great. And you can do that with any of these tracks actually. But then of course you'd have to give up what they have. If the CV is not being used, it's fair trade. Okay. You also get performance macros here. You do have an arpeggiator, just like very similar to the ones you're going to find in the digiboxes. You have some pretty cool tricks with the sequencer, like slide and note slide, parameter slide. I don't think you get those. Yeah, there's not on the digi. You can kind of make it work with some LFOs, but with this you get it right in the sequencer. You still get 2 LFOs, 2 envelopes. You got your amp stage, just kind of standard. We'll go through all this kind of stuff as we build the patches, but what's really great about this thing, obviously, is the Elektron sequencer. You can set per step up to 64 steps. Per step, you can change pretty much every single parameter that you have access to in these pages. And that's not a good example because that's the CV. Here we go. All of these pages, except, oh, I should say, except for the ARP. You cannot do anything with the ARP. People have been requesting that forever, but it never happened. So we got all these guys here. We can P-lock, parameter lock to the sequencer. You also have what is, of course, amazing about Elektron gear is the sound locks. So you can basically create an entire patch, save it, erase it from your setup, and then bring it in per step, or even as many steps as you want, but per step you can bring that sound back, and it works perfectly. I mean, it's kind of amazing because some groove boxes out there have struggled even with changing patterns without gaps, but you're getting like sounds per step, and if they're really jarring against each other, you'll hear a change because of the change in the tone of the sound. But if, say, you had 5 different bass patches and they were all kind of somewhat similar and you were navigating between them with sound locks, you will not hear a gap. They are clean. It is so tight and precise. I love Elektron gear. It's the best stuff I've ever. It changed the way I make music. It really did. So what we're going to work on today is essentially building a 4-part song, but really just about making the sounds. I'm not really looking for like a song creation, but I'm going to add some drums and some stuff and some bass and kind of make it all function together. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started off. We're going to go to a new bank, and let's see, God, it's been so long. F, there we go. This is an empty patch. We are going to change the tempo just to get a little bit speedier. Let's go just 125 for now. Okay, so let's start off. If anybody wants to join, please feel free to suggest any comments, anything like that when we're going through the sound design. Feel free. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Okay. You also have this little keyboard here with a bunch of hidden functions, but I don't. If I have, it would have been once or twice, but I almost never, I will say never, use an external MIDI keyboard. I write everything on this little keyboard here, and it's not a bad keyboard. The only problem is you don't get all those octaves when you're actually trying to plug something in, so you do have to do some back-end work after you plug something in sometimes, especially because you obviously have it C to C. So if you're writing in D, just D major, oh, see, doesn't get there, can't even get the sharp. So anyways, we have a very basic keyboard that I'm going to use, and that's how we're going to design these sounds. Like I mentioned, we're monophonic, so you're not getting big chord patches here unless you turn it into polyphonic synth, which I don't want to do that right now. We're going to focus on the monophonic. There is a trick, though. I love tricks. There's a trick to give you a little bit of a flavor of a chord, and I mean, it's a full chord, but it's obviously very dense. We'll talk about it, so we'll get there. All right. Oscillator 1, what do we got? This is just the first page. Many of these pages are going to have 2 pages. So 2 pages there. These actually have different settings too in those secondary pages. Those are the 2 oscillator pages. Filters is going to have just 1 page. Let's see, just 1 for that guy, 2 for the envelope because you have 2 envelopes, and 2 for the LFO for the same reason. And what I really like they do in this one, honestly, other than the rhythm, which you can't see, I have a full box here set up with the octatrack and the rhythm next to each other, and then this is on the far left. But the rhythm is the only other one I can think of off the top of my head that does this, but you have 2 destinations for your LFOs and 2 destinations for your envelopes. So that is really nice. It's not like having 4 because you obviously are constrained to using the same settings for 2 of them, but nonetheless, having 4 destinations, 4 envelopes, okay, 2 envelopes with 4 destinations total is much better than 2 envelopes with 2 destinations. So it's really cool. You can get with the LFO as well. So it is a powerhouse. This is a very well-built tune machine. I got in the game late, so I can't say regarding how many updates came from the beginning to where it kind of, for the most part, I think it's finished. But I got in late in the game before trig conditions and a few other things. But yeah, that's the other thing, trig conditions and the, that was something that people weren't sure going to happen, but it did, and that was fantastic. All right, back to it. I feel like we have a sound in here already somehow. Here, let's go to a second. Yeah, this still has that same kit. Oh, that's why. Okay, so I gotta load up a new kit. I don't use this one as much anymore, so here, let me save that kit, make sure it's saved. That was from that previous song. So we're going to hold function, hit kit. You can't really see all these little, I would call them hidden menus because they put it in red ink. I don't know why they did that. Very hard to see unless the lighting's right. But you have a bunch of sub options across the entire thing. They're everywhere. So holding down function, you can kind of see, it sort of tells you by having this little red indicator next to it. By holding down function, you can get to things like kit. So we're going to load a kit, but we're not actually going to load a kit because we don't have a kit yet. I'm going to go, does it start at 0? No, it starts at 1. Okay, so I'm going to go to 17. Kit 17 is loaded, which is clean, basic saw. Okay. So we get not too many different waveforms, but they do cover what you need. So you get a saw. You do have a, what is that one called? So this is a square. Oh, I think they call it a trap. It's funny. That's what it sounds like. Kind of reminds me of a buzzy triangle. Oh, that's a buzzy triangle. It's like a square mixed with a triangle. I forget what they call it, but TRP is how it's said here. And then you do get a pulse. They call it a pulse, essentially a square. And then you can affect the pulse width, so you do get that full pulse. Which is interesting because I'd imagine at this point that most manufacturers, just because of the knowledge of what a pulse width wave is kind of, if you're into synthesizers, that's one of the kind of general waveforms because it's a square just being shifted by the pulse width. I think it's kind of nice that they just kept it as that instead of saying a square separately because, I don't know, kind of, you don't need it. It's unnecessary. Triangle. Very nice, warm, buzzy triangle. Then you get these other fun options where you can actually use the internal. This does have an input, so you can use those as a source, right or left. And then you can also do feedback. Ooh, that's a little hot in my ears. That feedback, basically, it's feeding back into itself to get that. And then you can turn it off for some reason. I guess, yeah, I don't know. We'll start with a saw wave. We're going to go, let's try and make a bass sound. So like I mentioned, people often say it's not that great a bass. But personally, yes, it's not my Moog Minotaur. Yes, it's not my Slim Patty. Hell, it's not even the Behringer ARP, which makes killer basses. But you can make good basses with this. I am absolutely positive of that. So let's try and do that right now. So first thing I'm going to do is use the down buttons to bring down the octave of the keyboard. You can do that. So if you are pretty good at like going, oops, I went the wrong way. See, practice. That would be one you'd have to practice. Okay, let's do some things here. For whatever reason, their initialized track is not, in my opinion, fully initialized. It still has filter parameters engaged here. Didn't really change anything. Did I miss it? No, that's open. Alright. Can we go a little lower? Maybe. Ooh. Sometimes you get a saw wave that low, it like tickles my ear in this not good way. Oh, kind of makes all the hairs in my ears kind of frizzle. Okay, stop doing that. Let's try a little filter on this just to get rid of some of that. And that's better. So I'm actually going to close this filter quite a bit. If you watched any of my videos before, you hear me say this all the time. And the reason I do say this all the time is because it was something that, it's like when you know something, it's there in your head, but you don't really fully grasp it. It's like, yeah, you understand it and you go along with it, but then there's that somebody says it in a way, or you read it in a way, or you just think about it in a way that really cements it in. And that is, whenever I say I'm going to adjust a parameter, I'm going to modulate a parameter with an envelope or an LFO, whatever you're going to do, in mod matrix, all sorts of stuff. I always want to think about the parameter that I'm going to adjust. I want to set it where I want it to finish, where I want it to be at its least when the modulation has ceased. And since this is a bass sound, I want it to get real low and almost be gone, but not necessarily leave. Because sometimes when you even pull the bass, you can't really hear it, but the low frequencies are there in the track, and then you just drop it out entirely. It feels hollow sometimes. So I'm going to keep it really low, but it's still adding just a little bit of oomph to the bass. Okay, so envelope 1. So we do have one of these envelopes dedicated, at least it says, to the filter. So let's see. The thing is I'd imagine only some parameters because I still have to get it. Yeah, see, it's not going to do anything until I assign it to the filter. So that's interesting that they would call it that. I wonder if it was a holdover. Maybe in the beginning it was not assignable to anything else. Okay, you can hear it's opening quick, but then shutting right away. We don't want that. I'm going to bring the sustain down. We're going to take the release, just give it a little bit, maybe like 15. Let's try the decay. Wow, it was a slow decay. I'm surprised. I wonder what's going on there. Frequency. Oh, gate length. There we go. Interesting. I feel like I've never used that parameter before. Is it on the other one? It is. What's it set to normally? Off. Okay, well, I guess gate, they're implying... Okay, it's just like a delay. I don't know why they gotta throw me off calling it that. Okay. There we go. This is what I was trying to get to. Okay, we want to close. So we're not getting a super big fat bass out of this yet, but it's got a nice kind of honk tone to it. I like it. So here's what's cool too. So this is where you can start doing some other tricks we'll talk about shortly when we try to start making some chords. But this is where you can add a sub-octave. I'm sorry, sub-oscillator. So you get 1 octave square, a 2 octave low square, 2 octave pulse width. Then you get this 5th, which I assume is also a square because they're not telling you, but everything else is a square. And that's the last one, the 5th. I'm not going to use that now because having the 5th on a bass line can be, I mean, I guess it could work if that was the only thing you were doing or you were keeping it simple tonal wise, but for the most part, I don't think that would work. Not what I would want to hear. So let's try 1 octave. Yeah, now we're already getting some fatness right there. We can adjust. We cannot adjust the amount though. That's right. You get stuck. It's just basically on. There's no... Well, I could shave some of that off with a high pass filter. You do, I forgot to mention, you do get 2 filters, so that is awesome. They have slightly different settings. So the first one, you do get, both of them you get frequency and resolution, of course. You get everything the same, I should say, other than you get an overdrive circuit, which on the left it is, I think, overdrive, and on the right it's distortion, which technically there's a difference. And we'll hear the difference when we get there. But the other one lets you do a multi-mode, so you can select low pass, 2 different low passes, a 2 in 1 stage, so 6 decibels per stage. Band pass, so you're coming in from both sides. High pass 1, high pass 2, and then of course that's similar in the stage wise. And then I think this, what do they call this? Well, peak. Oh God, what is it called? Band shelf? I think it's a band shelf. And the idea is that so band pass, you're coming in with a high pass filter from the low end, so you're cleaning up as you go up, cutting out those frequencies, and then you're coming up with a low pass from the high side, and you're coming in. That's band pass. Where, correct me if I'm wrong here, somebody, if anybody, that believe this is called band shelf. I'm totally pulling that out of my butt right now, but essentially that comes into the middle and scoops out this way, so you're left with the low and the high frequencies, taking out the mids. And then you get peak, which is sort of like a very crummy EQ. I shouldn't call it that. You basically can hover over a frequency and kind of pick it up a little bit if you need to emphasize it. I don't tend to mix that way though, so I don't really use the BP much. I think I'd be more, sorry, the peak. I'd be more interested in using the band pass or the band shelf. Anyways, we're going to use a low pass filter 2-stage. I got nothing because that filter is all the way closed. I'm liking that. That's distortion, I believe, or I don't remember which one. Let's try a little resonance in here. Cool. That's not bad. That's pretty nice. I'm liking that. Okay, I'm good with that. You know what? I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to just plug in a drum beat using presets, and I'll be able to show you how the sound locks work. So first of all, this is a total synthesizer. There's no samples or anything. So I'm going to pull in some presets from the preset menu, and they're going to show you pretty well how good this thing is at making drums. I remember when I got the rhythm first, and then I got the Four. And as much as obviously the analog rhythm is designed to be a drum machine, I routinely saw people on Elektronauts and other forums say that actually when it comes to drum synthesis, this was the superior machine. Now, I still vastly prefer, because I think the workflow and everything designed in the rhythm is better. But when it comes to getting that just right kick or that just right snare, you get fundamental synthesis here. So you really can dial in what you really need. You don't get that as much. They're more stylized machines, they call them, in the rhythm, and those are kind of designed. They take some of the complexity out in favor for immediacy, so you can build these kind of sounds, snare, kicks, hi-hats, all that stuff, relatively quickly. It does make sense, and I do love it, and I have no problems with it. Also has a sample engine, which really puts it a touch above, which makes it definitely superior, in my opinion, for drums. But if you just want to get some good sounding drums and sample those, maybe, this is a killer machine for that. So anyway, let's get on to track 4. I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and do a simple, let's start with, okay, we got a 1, 4, 9, 12. So not 4 on the floor. It's going to be 1 and 2, 1 and 3. The beats 1 and 3 are going to have a kick, and then right before 2 and 4 are going to have a kick. And in those spaces, I'm going to add a snare, but we'll get there in a second. So let's go ahead and make this track the kick, since that's going to be kind of predominantly what we're starting with. All right. So if I double tap this guy, come into the preset menu, I click the left arrow here, filter. Scroll down until I see kick and hit yes. You have a check mark by it, hit no to get out, and then you can see these are all kicks. If we go a little lower. Woo! I wanted to go octave lower, but whatever, that's fine. Ooh, jeez. That might be kind of fun. You know what? Let's go for it. It's got way too much going on in the bottom end, so I might have to, or at least the decay. Yeah, let's bring that decay down a little bit. Too much for me, at least. Wow, that is some beef. Wow, that's too much. All right. Let's see what we can do. Oh, there you go, peak filter. I don't want to take too much away, so I'm going to bring the depth down about half of what it was. Man, that is it's really in there. Okay, I'm liking that so far, but I think I still need to bring the decay down. It takes so much of that oomph away. Whoa, what's going on? Oh, we got some. This is honestly why I don't usually use presets, is because they try to make them sound really cool and do all this stuff, and if you have something in your mind, you're chasing down the little ghosts here. Let's see, 0, there we go. Take the pan out. Let's try to figure out why something is sounding a particular way. Oops, wrong button. I'm getting some sort of, I don't understand what it is. Because, oh, maybe this is why. It's kind of hard to see. Let's see. Yeah, you might be able to see. Look at the very top corner right there, where you see that 3. This is where you can actually, you get like, let's see how many you get. About 5. What's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get 6. You get 6 different, it's like envelope presets in a way. And by the style you can see, so that's going to be like a linear attack and decay just by, by its nature. It's going to have an equal amount of, equal amount of travel no matter what the frequency is. And you can get more of, I believe when you have a delay like that, it's exponential. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But you can see the shapes. They're changing. So you can kind of imagine how the attack and the release are going to, and possibly the decay, are going to react by having these different sort of overlays, if you will. So I'm going to go with, I want something punchy. I'm going to go with 3 here. And you can kind of see, it's very hard to see, I'm sure. Yeah, if you look real close, you can see how that little square is appearing at the beginning of the little animation there, a little drawing. And that signifies a full reset. So if it's not there, you can hear how the decay. So this is not sensitive in any way to velocity or anything like that. So I should be getting the exact same sound every time, but I'm not. So if I click that over, I do hear some minor changes still, but you can hear that snap in the beginning that's always there. So something else is going on, but I think I tamed it enough. Sounds real wobbly though. That's so weird. So much for using a preset to go quickly. Maybe I need to go lower. Sounds like a heartbeat. Okay, well, I'm just gonna go to a different sound because I don't know what's going on with that. Nope, that's not what I meant to do. Jeez. Not clipping on your end, isn't it? It's hitting me loud. It's weird. I feel like I still hear something going on. I don't know. Oh. No, I mean, I do have this thing. It is plugged into some other synths, but none of them are running. So I don't see how that could be. Let me do something over here on the Octatrack real quick. Mute everything out. Where do I get to MIDI? God, it's been so long. There we go. Okay. Maybe. Not hearing anything different there. Okay, we're going to go with this guy and I'm going to try and tame it a little bit. Yeah, that's not bad. A little bit of that dust in there, but I'm going to bring the decay down. Okay, I'm right with that. You know, I might actually tune it a little bit lower. Let's see where we had 40. Eh, 46. Okay, so now I'm going to add a snare. So honestly, I'm still kind of iffy about that kick, but I've just got to get on with it. So let's go ahead and put one there. We're going to hear that snare sound there. So actually, I'm going to take it off for a second. First, we're going to do is we're going to just go and find a snare sound. If I do this, actually, no. This is where it gets a little tricky for me sometimes. There's a sound manager and a sound browser. So we want the sound, well, let me check real quick because I don't remember. How do I get there? How do I get there? Sound. Hold function, sound. Sound browser. We want sound manager. Sound browser, I guess, is for just the track that you're in. Sound manager obviously lets you manage the sounds, so I guess that makes sense. I just don't ever, so it should all just be in the same place, I guess. Well, we're looking for a snare, so I hit yes. I can go back in here, and these should all be snares now. Let's do that. That's great. You know, I'll add a couple. So what you do now is, now that I have it highlighted, I'm going to go to the right, go to copy to, so down one, hit yes, copy to sound pool. The sound pool is this far away, beautiful land that you can tap into at any time, and it's basically per, God, is it per bank or per project? I think it's per project, which is the 8 banks, I think. But essentially, you can. This is what I was talking about earlier about sound locks. You can stow away up to 128 different sounds that you can then pull from and via sound locks and use them in your song. So let's go ahead and add one more, at least one more. You know, I'm going to add it because I think we can use it. So copy to sound pool. No, excuse me. Yeah, I like that. Okay, sound pool. Okay, so let's see. Let's add one here. Here's the trick now. You hold it down, and you come over to the level knob, and that takes you right into the sound pool. We're going to try the minimal. Oh, that was from the last song. So we don't want that. We want, there we go. Let's do the puppy. I'm going to hold, copy, push, paste, get out of there, and we only have one pattern going, so let's hear it. Let's mix this around it. There we go. Yeah, okay. You know what? I'm gonna spice it up real quick, just real quick. How do I? You know what I'm gonna do here? I'm gonna go copy, paste. I'm gonna go to note here and bring the velocity all the way down to about 5, real low. Well, 4 is good enough. Then I gotta figure out where retrig is. Oh no, that's right, retrig. Oh, well, there you go. This is, God, this might be the only synth. This might be the only box. Okay, so I don't know. The very first box Elektron made was the SID station. The SID station is a very cool, old school, oh God, what's the name of the chip? It's like the old Atari 8-bit, or even less, 1-bit. What is it called? SID station, jeez. God, there was a full name for it, but it's like the SID chip. It's synonymous with that sound. I don't know about that one. I don't think it has a sequencer, so maybe that doesn't even count. But every single synth that I can think of, I never owned the mono machine, so that could be one. But this does not have retrig. Everything else I've ever owned from Elektron does. You can simulate it if you, say, have a pad sound, or if you have a lead sound, you can do it with an LFO, you know, hitting the amp volume with a square wave. You could totally simulate that. It's not ideal though, because for example with a snare, I'm not gonna be able to do it with the snare. I wanted to get a nice little climb up, so bummer. Oh well. Getting a little bit. Yeah, that's not too bad. So I'm gonna just go ahead and actually do, so I'm in the note trig. I'm gonna do a little percentage here, which if I remember, oh, it's the other way. Do a percentage of 25% that's going to occur. All right, let's go back to our bass. Oop. Okay, it's weird. I didn't know I did that too. Okay, so for that, I need another bar. Boom. I'm going to go ahead, before I forget, go over to advanced hit yes. So now that each track of the 4, well 6 really, but we'll say 4 for now, has a different amount of steps. We can have up to 64. You can sort of, you can expand the overall like kind of length of the sequence, if you will, by changing the what do they call it in here? They don't have a name for it. They just have a little thing here that just shows half, but that's a scale. That's what they call it, scale. But essentially you get 64 steps no matter what, up to 64. Okay, so let's try this now. Oh god, I already forget the bass line. Okay. Okay, my playing's never perfect on this thing, so the next thing I'm going to do is hit Function, Note Setup, and quantize the hell out of that. Okay. The way I like to work with these sequencers too, which I think is the best about having a sequencer, is I start adding in some random notes. We can actually use, by holding down this trick, I can pick where I want that note to be. Okay, I'm going to change that a little bit. Ooh. I got an idea. What about that? Maybe add just a little. Just going to have a little fun here for a second. Let's add a little reverb and delay to it. Just a little hair. Now I'm going to add a little reverb just to the whole thing. Let's go over to our reverb, which, unlike the digiboxes, God, I hope they do this. They sort of add a little bit of this with like the Syntac, and I think the Digitac as well, by having that kind of master track or bus track that they let you put a filter on and stuff. I think that's just a Syntac with the filter. This, you get an FX track. So the Toneverk brought this back. Thank you. But the FX track allows you to sequence the parameters of the effects, and that is awesome. So, for example, let's go ahead and add some reverb here and mess with it. And we're going to do a little high pass filter there, just to kind of let some of that bass come through without any where did I do my water? Without any reverb on it. Oh man, did I not bring my water? Oh no, here it is. Ooh, so thirsty. I've got a little concern here. I know I'm not that popular, but I'm usually not that unpopular, so I'm gonna go check and see if I'm doing something wrong here, because not a single person has showed up. Oh no, I had 2 views. You know what? It is what it is at this point. I'm gonna check on my phone. Let's make sure it's at least playing properly. So why am I not seeing my live thing right now? Weird. Yeah, okay. It's on. I'm just not getting any views. Well, I wonder if people just don't really care about older synthesizers, which, I get that. Maybe I should focus more on new stuff, just so that it's more interesting to people. But man, I mean, these synthesizers still exist out there. I see people selling these as low as $500 nowadays, which I know is still a lot of money, but I think I paid $875 for mine, and when it came out, it was like $1,200. And I believe the mk2 now is probably in the $1,700 range. Same exact engine, with the exception that supposedly they say they tweaked it so it's a little more bass heavy. I don't know, but nonetheless, everything else is there. I mean, I think, there might be a few parameters they added. I'm not sure, but nonetheless, this thing is amazing. for that price. Anyways, so I hope people want to watch stuff of old synthesizers, but maybe I do need to move on to just newer stuff. I have plenty of new stuff too. Man, I love all of these old things. New and old doesn't matter. They're just so fantastic. So we'll see. You know, if nobody shows up for these older synthesizers, I might start focusing on new stuff more. So anyways, all right, I'm going to pepper a little bit more into this sequence just to kind of have a little fun with it. Let's see if I can come up here and do an octave up. Ooh, I have an idea. Let's do both of those, but bring this one down there. And I'm actually thinking I might copy this over here temporarily, bring this over here, copy that there. Here, what we got here? Okay, so I'm definitely going to come over here and bust out some reverb for these guys and a little delay. Okay, so back to what I was talking about before. If we go to the FX track, now we have a full sequencer, 64 steps, to affect any of the delay, chorus, or reverb parameters. And that to me is amazing. Like, come on. That is fantastic. I'm so glad they brought that back in the Tonewerk. It's kind of funny because I feel like the Tonewerk is going to be awesome. It's not there yet. It's got some bugs and it's got some issues, but they're going to fix them. I know they will. I've had obviously these guys for a long time, and they always take care of their stuff. So I have faith. But I will say it is a little funny and a little, let's just go with funny, that they took away something. They never brought it to the digiboxes, so not on any of the digitones or digitacs, not the syntact, but they bring it back, which is the ability to have a sequencer and sequence parameter lock the effect parameters. They bring that back, and it's like kind of the big thing for Tonewerk. It's that and then the multiple output destinations per step, so you can change the output to different buses and effects and stuff like that, which is also huge. That's new. I don't think they've done that before, at least not, I can't think of it off the top of my head. But bringing back something and claiming how revolutionary it is, it's a little, a little funny. All right. Okay, back to the FX track. Let's get that going already. So where were we? It was somewhere, I think it was right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take this delay, and I'm going to increase the time, and I'm going to widen it up, increase the feedback, and it's just for these, just those two steps you can hear. So if that delay was engaged anywhere else, it's not going to have these settings because I'm only doing it right there. I love that. And now what I'm going to do is come back, I'll do it with, that's a good question. We're going to do this. We're going to do a trig condition on here to have it only happen 1 out of every 2. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to do, I had them in the wrong space. That still kind of works. Come over here and do the same thing. So this way we get a space without it. So let's hear what this. Okay, for these, I'm gonna hold down them both, go to note again, and do 1 of 2, but I actually want this one to play on 2. That's kind of, it's, I'm sure most everybody's gonna figure it out, but it's a nice little trick. Like if you've got a few trigs that you want in a opposite, you want one trigger at this time, but this one doing the opposite of that, I would go ahead and hold them down together, set one of them, and then you're usually pretty close to where you need to set the other one, so it kind of saves you a little time. All right, let's go back to the effects and fix this real quick. Copy, paste, get rid of that one, see what it sounds like. Yeah, it's a little cleaner. Okay. Now, let's make ourselves a little, a sort of a chord. This is where it gets a little tricky. So this obviously is a monophonic synth, right? 4, because that's the way I have it set up right now. It can be polyphonic, but that's only if you eat up all these tracks and turn them into one, or however you want to do it. But these are monophonic engines in each one of these tracks. But because you get two oscillators, each with their own sub-octave, and both of those sub-octaves can be set to a fifth low, meaning like if you're in the key of C and you engage this, you're going to get, it's weird. I don't know why they did it this way, but essentially, if I'm remembering right, it's a fifth down. So it's not the fifth, it's a fifth down, so it's actually the fourth. So if you're in C, say you're in C2, you would engage the fifth sub-oscillator, and that would bring it down to an F1. So it's a little strange, but it works. So but the idea is then if you can shift the notes around, you can basically tune the oscillators a little bit different, you can create a full seventh chord. You can get a first, third, fifth, and seventh. It's tricky. They're going to stay relatively stacked or essentially in pairs, so you can't really get huge, wide, beautiful chords necessarily. You can pull some good stuff off, but we're going to try this. So that's obviously one note right there. So I'm going to engage the sub-oscillator fifth, and you'll hear. Oh, you're not hearing anything. Why? Oh, I'm in the wrong page. That's why. There we go. Let's hear. Huge difference in sound. But here's the trick. It's actually a fourth. Here, listen. Turn it back off. There's the fourth, the F. So it is a fifth down, but I guess in my head, if they had said fifth there, I would hope they would have done the actual fifth of the scale, which would have been G, but they didn't. So anyway, maybe there's a good reason, and I'm not thinking of it. So we're now getting that C up here and the F below it, just off that. So if we have that there, that's our 1 and our 4. We don't really want 1 and 4, right? We want, maybe we could shift up that 1, now that we know that it's going to be a fourth above, we could shift that up to the fifth, which would be plus 7. And the reason it's plus 7 is because that's measuring semitones or steps. So if you're on a keyboard, for example, right here, you go 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step, 5 step, 6 step, 7 step, get you to the fifth. So we do plus 7. So now we've changed this from the C, which let's look at it down here now. So this is also, those are octaves. So if we're at the C, we just went up 7 steps to the fifth, but we also have that fifth coming back down. So I just shifted it now, so now you're getting a 1 and a 5. So we just kind of tricked it a little bit. By doing that, we're now getting our 1 and our 5. So if we go back here and engage our second oscillator, and let's just get rid of the sub altogether, we can tune it to 5. So if we're here, this is what it would have been on C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry. 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step, 5 step. So I'm sorry, we don't want that. What am I doing? Oh, yeah. We want 3. Because now we're getting 1 step, 2 step, 3 to the minor third. So here we should have 1, 3, minor 3, and a 5. It's a little jarring because they're so tight together, but it is there. But what we can do is we can go ahead and bring this up. So if it was F3, let's add an octave to it, to 15. And now you have your minor. You know what? We could crank it up one more step. Get our major chord. Cool. That's definitely kind of a minor jam, so let's bring that back down. So here's another thing you have to deal with. If you're going to play, there's no scale that I'm aware of that fits in. It's just kind of, it doesn't sound good. It could be a little, you can kind of pull it off with a few, almost, but you still need to resolve some of that a little better. So what we can do is we can P-lock those particular hits and change those notes and actually spread across the whole scale in chords. So let's try it. So obviously it's going to sound awful because I'm just going to play I'm trying to get the root in there so then we can go back and and fix them. Let's try something kind of a little simpler. We'll try that. Oops, not long enough. Okay, let's go and I just doubled to 64 steps. We're going to need all of those. Try it again. Oh, something's wrong. See how it stopped? It was only going through the 2 bars, and that's because we got to go over here and change the master. Now it's to 64. I'm not going to go too far into this right now because we're just focused on making sound, but this is a very cool, advanced kind of thing they got going on here. You can essentially have each track have its own amount of steps, but then you can adjust how long the overall pattern plays and also when you can change that pattern. So you can have a pattern that plays 512 steps, but you can say change it every 16 steps. So in case if you want to change in the middle of those 512 pretty quickly to a new pattern, you can. It's very cool. It's very cool. I won't lie. That to me, it took me a little bit to wrap my head around that when I first got this. This was my first, not this one, the Rhythm, but they're very similar. It was my first sequence-based device, and what a way to start, man! I'll tell you, this is this is a great way to start if you're new to it, or you're very long-term sequence-based musician. The Elektron sequencer is amazing. Okay, all right, let's try this. 3, 2, 1. Maybe I didn't. Oh, maybe it's. Okay, got a couple of things all ready to fix in there, so let's. That should be there. Let's go ahead and quantize. Boom, boom, boom. Just to keep it clean. Okay. That actually all sounds okay until we get to the G, which I think is going to happen about right here. Yep. There too? No. Let's try. That's G and that's G. Okay. So let's just try and see if we can fix this real quick by going here. We're going to the second oscillator and we're going to tune it up from 15 to 16. And the idea here is we are going to give, I don't know why that got pushed. We are going to, weird. Let's just get rid of that altogether. We are going to change that chord now to a major chord. So let's hear. It's better. All right, we still just have saw waves on here. So let's actually go and do some sound design because that is the driest sound, man. Put a little, not on this one actually. Let's detune this guy a little bit. We can also have a nice little inversion going on here by putting a double octave down. So now we are using the, it's going to be the third, so mostly a minor third, sometimes a major third. And now I'm going to have 2 octaves below. Let's just hear what it sounds like. Too much. Maybe we go to 1. I kind of like it without. I think it sounds fine. Okay, let's get a little filter in there. I'm going to get some fast acting filter. It's funny to go back to the older synths of Elektron. The knobs are so much slower, but they're more precise. I mean, I'll say I've been using the Tonewerk, and the Tonewerk's got some house cleaning to do. They got a lot of work to do that. It's got some funkiness to it, and one of them is the, man, sometimes to find like a specific, like the retrig, trying to get a 1/32 retrig, you were just like turn and turn, and then, oh, you turn too far. Oh, it drives you crazy. So they need to fix that. They will. Okay, so this is where we're landing. There's nothing even there, so that works. Let's do some depth. So So I think, yeah, that's cool. So you actually get, with the envelope for the filter, you actually get 3 destinations because there is a hardwired one on the filter page. So that's cool. Okay, that's, I guess I never really knew that, or maybe I did. And just, I mean, honestly, I haven't used this beautiful synth in a year, which is not great. Feel bad. All right, come back to oscillator 1. Sorry, filter. There we go. A little dark, and I want it to decay. Let's see what we got now. Give it some release. Alright, next thing, we have some excellent LFO options here. Let's go with the hold. No, let's try free. Let's try free first. I might come back to hold. We're going to go 16 as the multiplier. Speed is... Why is the speed so low? That's strange. Did I do that? Oh, okay. By default, they're set to -64. That's strange. Okay, let's just do... If I hold function, I can get stepped by 16, which is convenient. So let's go with 32 for now. And we're going to pull a waveform that is the random, or the sample and hold if you prefer. It's kind of the same thing for the most part. You can turn it into a true sample and hold by setting the mode as hold. We might end up trying that. So let's try that. A little more subtle. So now I am going to use hold, and right now it's free, so it's just randomly spitting stuff out. It can change in between a step, you know, because the speed and stuff is exactly in sync. If we change it to trig, it will start every time it gets to one of these trigs. But I want to go a step further into one that I really like. It is called hold. Hold is probably the coolest, probably the best function of an LFO for me when it comes to sequence-based music, because it does something that you would take a lot more programming than lining up and kind of making sure everything's functioning the right way. But what it does is it samples no matter what LFO it is, doesn't matter if it's random, sine, square, doesn't matter. It samples that particular point at which a trig occurs. It samples it and it holds it. So if it's in a sine wave and it's doing this and you sample it right here, that's the parameter. And it's going to stay that way until that trig is done, until a new trig comes. And I love that because, for example, it's perfect for hi-hats. It is absolutely phenomenal for hi-hats, because when you're playing hi-hats, you want variation, but that variation, like if you struck it one last time, whatever you struck it at, it's going to, you know, sizzle out, but it's going to stay even. It's not going to change its timbre in some way like an LFO would normally do. So if you're playing hi-hats, no matter how fast or how slow, or if you change in the middle of the pattern, it's going to hold whatever LFO parameter is at, whatever that precise parameter is sitting at. It's going to hold that for the duration of that sound. Just makes it so much more natural sounding, and is also just kind of a fun sound design technique. So let's hear what we got now. You can hear how it's staying muted the whole time it's that one trig, but when the next one comes, if it happens to be a bright, like a higher parameter, it stays there for that time. I'm going to bring the depth down to about 6. So it's kind of light. Maybe a little higher, actually. To the multiplier. The cool thing too is the multiplier effectively has no real purpose, because it's re-triggering, I think, every time it hits something. So I don't think the multiplier does anything. Kind of funny. All right, let's bring that down a little bit. It's a bit hot. All right, what else can we do to this sound? So there's a bunch of sub-menu sounds in here. So right here is the sample and hold for noise. A little bit of color in there too. So this is just noise itself. We can just turn that on. Here, I'll crank it. It's kind of nice because we have that filter going on with that sample and hold. That's also giving us a nice kind of mellow sound to the noise. I'm going to actually add, so this has its own sample and hold modulator. You can change the color, probably all the way from pink, white. I think there's a green noise? I forget, but essentially just kind of darkening it. So maybe that's not the real pink noise and different color noises. This is fun right here. This is oscillator. What does AM stand for? It's something modulation. I can't think of what it is. I don't remember. But you can do it on both tracks. These are the sync modes. You can have 1 sync to 2, or 2 sync to 1, or you can have whatever MET means. Have no idea, but I sure like the way that sounds though, so I'm going to keep that. That's pretty cool. All right, what do we got here? Oscillator retrig. So this is the idea that every time, maybe that's what I need to set for the drums. Oscillator retrig is essentially the idea that you will start from the very beginning of that oscillator waveform for every trig when it's on. It's a little, it's not, so this sound I don't think is a good representation of what it sounds like when you have that on there. A little bit of vibrato. Well, that's the speed. So I'm going to actually fade that in, which they do have a vibrato fade here. Lovely. I love fades. Fade should always be on any sort of LFO. Cool. I like that. What is this? Note slide. Oh, this is bend and slide. So that's a whole other thing that has to do with portamento and also sequencer slides. So you can make some pretty convincing 303 patterns on here and use those sequencer slides and parameter slides. So that's pretty fun. Also not on the Digi tools. You can kind of get around it with some LFOs, but if we have time, it's 9:05. Maybe I'll just do one time where I just build one big patch on this thing using the polyphonic setup, because the note slides the parameter slides are so fun. So you can have a note, you know, if you're going between these chords, but you wanted to say have the frequency low, the filter frequency, cutoff frequency low on this trig, but on this one you want it open, you can have that actually morph between those two when that changes. It's so cool. I love it. The Rhythm also has something similar to that as well, but I think it's only note slide. They just call it slide, but I think it's just, well, maybe it's parameter slide. That would make more sense because you're not going to slide notes often with a drum machine. So yeah, it's probably parameter slide. They also have the accent sequencer, essentially. Man, I wish they'd have kept that. I do really love the concept of that. We won't go over that here today because it's not quite as important to me. Because I often use it more with the drum machine, but it is a very cool feature, and you can definitely incorporate it in making sounds, but it's not as important right now. So let's hear what we got with this. Okay, let's go ahead and put a little bit of effects on this. We'll put just a hair delay as a 23, and we'll do a decent amount of reverb, maybe like 41, and let's go ahead and put a decent amount of chorus on there too to give a little bit of warble warmth to it. Still too loud. Cool. I brought the frequency down a little bit too to kind of tame that a little bit. Okay, that's fun. We can work with that. I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to come back to that track again. I'm going to LFO. We have an open LFO here. This one is currently doing what? That's the one that I set up with the frequency for the filter with the sample and hold. So this one is not being used for anything. The depths are both 0. We're going to set this one to the pan, which already is right here. And we are going to set it as a... Let's try the square first. I'm going to go for a real hard left, hard left. I'm sorry, left, right, hard left, right, hard left, right. And do a little bit of depth. Let's say about 20. Let's do trigger. And speed, we'll just keep it 16. I don't think it really is going to matter that much here. Let's think here. Well, let's see what it sounds like. I'm engaging the hold. That's what I wanted. Maybe a little less. Oh yeah, I went to 45. Okay, let's come back to the filter area. We do not have anything going on with the second filter right now. I love that you get 2 filters on this, and they're full-fledged filters. You do get that same thing in the digis, but usually the second filter is just a kind of a utilitarian filter. It just literally gives you I think it's just low pass, high pass, maybe. Yeah, I mean, effectively you get a band pass because you can kind of control the low and the high independently at the same time, and they can come in there. So that is nice for EQing and stuff, but for real sound design stuff, I definitely prefer having a full second multi-mode filter. I mean, that's pretty great. Okay, to be fair, the first one is just a low pass filter, so I guess in some ways it's not that far off from the digiboxes, but it's still better in my opinion. Let's clean up some of this. So I'm going to put a high pass filter on here. Let's go with 1. And let's take that. Low frequencies is too much. Still too much. Okay. Maybe we'll mess around a little bit more, a little more delay. That delay is not swinging with me right now. Whoops. Oh yeah, you also get some extra stuff in here too that I forgot to mention. So a lot of these are going to be the same, I think. Yeah, all of them the same, I guess, until you get over to here. So if you hold function to hit any of these gray keys that essentially operate the different parameters for the synth engine, you get this little menu here. And you get oscillator drift, so you get a little bit more of a natural, kind of emulating a voltage controlled analog oscillator. This is analog, but it's DCO, it's digitally controlled, so you can basically make those oscillators sound perfect, or near perfect. They're going to be very clean, they're going to be very synced up and very tight when you want them to be. But if you want that kind of old school drift, they just give you a parameter setting, yes or no. It's not uncommon these days to have synthesizers have full-on drift control, meaning you can set how subtle, how much, all sorts of parameters. The Summit, the Novation Summit comes to mind as having a bunch of drift, and I don't, they call it, I forget, the idea is they have drift, which is kind of a natural, even like a brand new voltage controlled oscillator is going to have drift because you have these 2 analog controlled oscillators kind of running against each other. Gives you a little bit of phase, a little bit of warmth, but you also have these cool options. It's like, I think they call it degradation in the new Behringer gear that has it, but the Summit has it. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but the idea is that everything, so does the Behringer DeepMind 12 has it, everything drifts. I think it's just parameter drift. Everything drifts a little bit. So it's kind of like you pulled this thing out of a closet and it hasn't been tuned up properly yet. And you can make it sound like that. Or you can have it just a little bit like you took it and had it tuned 6 years ago, but it needs a new one, but it's not there yet. It's really cool. This one you just get on or off, so I can't tell you exactly what it's doing, but it sounds good, so I'm going to leave it. F1 resonance boost, so that's the filter 1 resonance boost. I guess you just get a little bit more resonance. I'm sure they added that later because people either complained or said there's not enough kind of thing. Velocity to volume, yes, that should be auto on. Oh, Oh, that's cool. It's giving me, yeah, you can turn it off, or you can have an option to do like linear or logarithmic, or what's the other one? Exponential. Legato mode, that's your portamento. Same thing, kind of use those two together. Velocity mod. This is awesome. This concept right here, which actually would bring in the accent, which accent sequencer lets you control the velocity of each step. But what this does is, and this is available in almost everything that Elektron makes these days. And the idea is that you can set the velocity to modulate, in this case, 5 parameters. 5 parameters. You only get 4 in the modern ones. You get 5 in this old girl. And it is awesome. I'm not going to mess with it right now because it's we won't have enough time, and it would just be a huge deep dive. Honestly, I find myself using that kind of stuff too more when it comes with drums, but it does work for synths, obviously great too. And the idea is that you can just set, so if you come away from this, or if you program steps with velocity that's different, this is going to give you the same velocity every time. But if you have like a regular keyboard, if you, like I said, program it and change all the velocity, you basically have this extra mod matrix that takes that velocity and uses it then to apply a certain amount of modulation to a specific parameter according to how much velocity comes in. And so it's amazing. It's such a cool concept to have when you're doing drums. It's like, if you're playing a drum, like you get on a snare and you start doing a snare roll, the lighter hits, you're only hitting that snare so hard, so you're not getting that first bright hit. You're getting kind of a little muddier hit as you get up, and then you start hitting harder and harder, and you get more of a whack snap. You can emulate that with Velocity Mod Matrix. So very cool. Okay, what the heck was I doing when I went off on that? Yeah, I just wanted to show you that extra menu. I think that might have been the last thing. Pitch bend. So these are more that you can then do with more. Man, you can do so much. These are more mod matrices. The only thing is that you have to have something like a keyboard, pitch bend, modulation wheel, breath controller, aftertouch. The cool thing is if you are savvy enough, which I like to think myself as being, is you can then do something. You can't see it right now because the camera's zoomed in on the A4, but I have an Octatrack over here too, and I can send MIDI commands to control those aftertouch and all those. And so basically I can unlock 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different mod matrices, each with 5 parameters inside. I mean, just think of that. That's 25 different modulation setups you can create. It's not 25 total because it's like it's 5 with sub 5. So it's like they do have like kind of a bottleneck, if you will, but nonetheless, that is still incredible. That is incredible. Yeah, and this thing is old, so it's only getting better. Anyways, what was I going to do? I guess not much. I'm gonna bring this filter down a little bit, or maybe bring the depth down. Okay. That's my bass. Alright, let's come and make a quick arpeggiator. Let's just make a nice arpeggiator sound here. So we'll go with, I want something soft since I already have kind of a lot going on in this little tune here. Let's see if I can bring that up an octave. Okay, that's good. I'm going to bring in the second oscillator right away at about a little more than half volume. And we're going to make that also a triangle. Detune it a little bit. Okay. So let's come back into these secondary page parameters. What do we got here? A little noise? Nah, we don't need the noise. Let's try this one here. Man, what does the AM stand for? Anybody want to help me out? AM on these guys? I can't remember. It's like something modulation. It's basically allowing hard sync, if I remember correctly. So right now it's saying 1 to 2, and the idea is that as 1 completes its phase, so let's say you have a sine wave, it's going to go up from the 0 crossing, and it's going to go down through and come back up. It's going to do like a mirror effect. That's a full oscillation. And once it hits here, it's going to start over. Now, if you have another wave going at the same time, but say that wave's slower, it's going to force that one to come back to the beginning. So it's going to keep it in sync. And I'm going to keep that on there. No, actually, because if you do that, it kind of destroys a little bit of the detune. So we're going to keep it off. We're going to have oscillator retrig on. I want that for the arpeggiator. I don't want to lose too much of that beginning attack. I'm actually going to take that attack down just a hair. But I don't want to lose. I want it to be the same every time. It's real snappy. That's interesting. Oh, well that's interesting. Maybe that is backwards setting. Oh, okay, we'll just keep it. Don't need any vibrato. Maybe a little filter. A little bit of resonance. Let's distort it a little bit. Okay. Let's come over here. Not much we need to do in the amp page. You know, I might... There we go. Now we have a little bit of a waviness going on with the... That's the detune there, giving us a little bit of a warble. If I were to set this to having that little square in the front, a little bit less. All right, let's try some LFO. Now I did have a little bit of a filter application in there, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust this to mess with that just a little bit. It is set to free. Okay, the 64 multi-step there, or the 64 multiplier is going to give us that little bit of a... Kind of hear that little warble. It's almost like the vibrato effectively kind of is, but I'm going to fade this in a little bit. Oh, I guess I have to hit trig to have it fade. That makes sense. Cool. All right, let's see what we can get with a little bit of arpeggiation here. It's probably not going to be crazy. So if I hit function, I'm sorry, no, I don't have to hit function. If I just hit ARP, that takes me to the ARP page. And then if I hit function in ARP, I actually get to go to this modifying page. What's it called? There's a name for it. I can't think of what it's called. It's like a step modifier or something like that. It's amazing. We'll get there in a second. It basically turns your arpeggiator sort of into a sequencer of its own. All right, let's turn this on. So you can see right here it says mod. We're going to go to true, which is basically any notes that I'm holding down. Okay, that is way too many octaves. So if I look right here, it says range. I'm going to turn that down to just 1 for now. Yeah, we'll go with that. Speed is set to 6. I don't really know what the 6 signifies, but as you get the lesser the number, the quicker it is. I'm sure someone can tell me why that is. I don't know. Then, oh man, this is so cool. Then you can get these note modifiers. It's neat. So for every one, since obviously I'm not going to be able to hold these like this when I play, I can. But if I had to dial those in, this lets you set those extra modifiers per step. So very cool. But we're gonna play it manually. So. That's why it sounds weird. Maybe I don't need the major up there. Okay, it's gonna sound This isn't going to sound great because it's not exactly what I'm going for, but, you know, we're going to just try and make this happen for the song. So... Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that did not work. Let's go ahead and do our click. Active. We got a pre-roll of 1 bar. I'll be able to catch it on time, so... Okay, ready. 2, 3, 4. Weird. Oh. There we go. Fixed it. Let's get that click out of there. Let's get some of this stuff out of the way here. Is the click still on? It is. There we go. I'm gonna pan over to the left. Oh, I must have these backwards. Well, that's weird. Oh, it's backwards on there. Alright, well, if I want to go to the left, I gotta go to the right for now. I'll turn this down just a hair. Let's see. A little loud in my ears. Doesn't look like it's too out of balance in the mix here, so let's stick with it. Okay. I'm gonna go and fix that little gap there. If I come here and go to note, you can see 7.5. I'm gonna go take it to a full 8. 2, 4, it should cover it. There we go. Now it's fixed. Okay, now the next thing we're going to talk about real quick is the ARP note modifier. It's got a name, I'm sure. I just can't think of it right now, but this is so cool. So basically, you heard what we played. And now, you can add up to 16 steps that will loop changes on this. So, let's see. I got to remember how to do this guy again. Oh, so it's off of this. That's right. But how do I go back and forth? They do it differently in everything, I swear. The new ones are not like this at all, but this is kind of convenient. So if I hold this one, let's keep the first one normal. If you tap it once, it takes it away, so then it won't play anything. Let's hear what it sounds like if I take every other one from the first half of it. That's pretty cool already. Let's hear. Alright, we already got something going on there. So, just to see if we can get a little understanding of how this works now, you can crank the... Oh, offset. Note offset. That's what they call it. So I'm going to go up a fifth. Take this one down a fifth. Maybe down a fourth. I'm going to do it for this one too, just to have something change. The thing you got to be tough about when you're getting a lot of modulation a lot of melodic content going is that when you start using these kind of, you know, restrictive to some degree settings, you know, like it might a whole step up from the first note's fine. A whole step from the fifth note's probably fine because it'll probably go from a fifth to a sixth. But if you say use a minor third and then you have a whole step note offset from that, you're now in a flat 5, which, you know, if you're doing some electro jazz maybe, but a flat 5 is a hard thing to pull off in electronic music. So what did I end up doing? 7, which is a fifth. Oh. You know, I think the best thing you can do for this, honestly, is to go an octave. what I like to do back over here. So we know what's happening on this step right here. I'm going to put what's called okay, so they used to call them trigless trigs. I think they call them something different now. And I read the manuals all the time, but you know, you get something in your head and it's hard to forget how they originally called it. Because they used to call it trigless trigs. Definitely in the Octatrack menu. And that was a confusing way to say it, but I got used to it. So now they call them, I think, oh God, what do they call them? I think it's note trig versus parameter trig, maybe? But the idea is that if it's lit up solid like this, it is hitting the sequencer with a note. There is a note value in there. It is generating a full hit on that sequencer. It's triggering the gate for the note, the filter, the LFOs. You can change that over here in the note page by turning those off. You can not trigger envelopes or LFOs individually. But the idea of a trigless trig, you can see it's a little faded out, is now you can change any of these parameters without restarting a note. And I don't want to mess with the note because we're already getting that taken care of from both the arpeggiation and from the offset of the arpeggiation. So I'm going to hold this down and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to engage the filter a little bit lower on that octave, maybe just a little bit of resonance. Let's hear what that sounds like. Too much. There we go, that sounded better. So here's the kick. Once you engage one of these, and I don't think that's the way on the new ones, I could be wrong, but once you engage this, it now locks that until it hits a new trig that doesn't have it. So the next thing I need to do is come here, hit this again, copy, paste it actually, let's just do that. And this time I am going to set it back to what it was, which was 112 and 14, so I actually have to lock it. Because if I don't lock it, it won't register it. And here it comes back out of that step. And I'm going to tighten it up by moving it all over to the left. But that might not do anything right now that I think about it because, oh no, we didn't quantize. Cool. I'm going to come back a little bit here to about there. Now I'm going to add a little delay. Copy both of those. Come over here and do it for this one too. Let's do some reverb on that too. So that's kind of nice. We got a little bit of extra reverb on there. I'm going to just put a little bit on this. Okay. And let's take out some of that low end with the low pass or high pass filter. Okay. Let's come over to the LFO. We have one set for the pan already, so I'm going to go ahead and use that one. I'm going to do what I love to do and use the hold modifier. Bring that volume down just a little bit. Okay, last thing I think I'm going to do real quick, back to the drum track. We need some hats. So let's go ahead and go into our preset manager by hitting function sound. Not the sound browser, but the sound manager. Sorry, not preset. They call them sounds in this device. We're going to go to filter. We're going to come down till we see hi-hat or H-hat. Okay, hit no to get out. Let's see what we got for our hi-hats. What? Is that a fart hat? Meep hat. Okay. I don't know. I feel like it has to be somewhat simple. That's okay. All right. So we don't want to hit yes. What we want to do is we want to go to the right by clicking the right button here into this side menu, copy to sound pool. And if you weren't here earlier, you'll know what I was talking about. If you were here earlier, you know I was talking about the sound pool is a sort of side memory buffer where you can keep 128 different sounds and then bring them in per step via sound locks. Genius. So we're going to hold this down. I just engaged a trig, so now if I let that play, you're going to hear a kick twice. Actually, I want to go back to this one. Hear that? Boom, boom. Okay, kind of cool. Get a little funkiness to it, but what I want to do is hold that down, come over here, turn the main level knob, and grab that simple noise hi-hat. Now it's here. Yeah, I'm going to put this everywhere I can. So we got a little bit of a hiccup here because I can't do it there. Let's see if I can move that kick. Yeah, that's all right. 3, I want it 3, 7, 11. Maybe if I put it there. Trying to get a kind of even groove on the hi-hats. That's not bad. I need to tone that down a little bit. I'm actually going to try. I feel like I want to use a, this is kind of nice. If you hold it, it tells you that you are using that particular sound lock. But I feel like I want to get rid of some of the high frequency, but what I often realize is I actually want to get rid of the low frequency. Oh, it was already pretty high up there. Let's hear. This is before. Maybe a little bit in between there. There we go. Okay, where did I put them? 7. You can tell they're blinking too. All of them are blinking for the most part. Any of the sound locks will blink. So when you have multiple different sound locks, you know, keep that in mind. Okay, I also want to pan that over to the right a little bit. Oh, to the left because I have the cables mixed up. So let's do that. 7, 11, and 15. Too far. Let's try L6. Much better. Just gonna put them in there. And the last thing I'm going to do is add a little swing by hitting function, swing, through the whole pattern. Oh, I guess this time it's going to be the level knob. I'm going to go 54. Cool. So, pretty simple. We didn't do anything overly exciting right now, but it was the concept of just kind of getting around this thing. The reality of using the sequencer to really play a lot of your sounds and really get the most out of those sounds by the parameter locks and the sound locks. The thing for me really, maybe I should do a whole video of just me creating sounds with, or songs with this full box. You can't see it right now, but I have the analog rhythm, I have the Octatrack mk2, and the Analog Four. I have the 3 original Dark Trinity, as it's known. Then I also have a nice little mixer to mix them together. I have the NABC Plus Sono Bono sidechain guy above it. And I've got a few controllers, and I've got it all set up with a nice huge patch bay in the back, so I can basically plug and replug everything the way I want it. But yeah, it's a fantastic setup, and I feel like I never really did much alone with the Analog Four. I already had the rhythm when I got it, and immediately paired them together and had such a blast with it. I built a case for just those two, and I played that way for like 2 years, and then I got myself an Octatrack and realized they were made for each other as a group. And yeah, since then I've built a hard, huge, heavy box, and it's not coming out anytime soon. So these ones live all together, and now they, you know, the only way I can do this separate is just by zooming in on one, which is fine. But I just don't feel like, for my style, I don't feel like the rhythm offers enough by itself to give me a full song. I mean, I should say it does, but I prefer to use the rhythm for the drums and then focus all the sounds on this guy. And then, of course, the Octatrack sample is remixing and resampling and stuff like that. So, anyway, pretty amazing device. We did just kind of scratch the surface of it. I think next time I might actually just turn it into a polyphonic by engaging that setup and just doing one big polyphonic patch just to show you what this thing can really sound like when it's really, really giving it its all. But for now, I think we did okay. That's kind of fun. I could see myself working on this, turn into something more substantial. But yeah, for now, it was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. You know, I didn't get as many visitors today. I'm definitely thinking maybe I need to start doing some newer synths and just kind of sticking to those because it seems like people are wanting, you know, to learn those newer ones. But I implore you, don't sleep on old synthesizers. Obviously, yes, if they're $25,000 for an old Jupiter, sure, sleep on that. That's ridiculous because $25,000 you can put a down payment on a house. Well, at least you could. I don't know what you can do now. But for like $500 to get one of these guys, you could get this whole setup right here, I would say pretty easily around $2,000, maybe a few bucks more. And I know that is a lot of money. That's not a small amount of money. But what you can do with 3 Elektron boxes together, it's amazing. I mean, you would have effectively all your bases covered for electronic music. And honestly, any kind of music, if you're willing to, you know, really make it happen, you can certainly get out of electronic music, if you will, like that kind of 4 on the floor or whatever. You can get way out with these setups, and it's amazing when you see guys out there doing, or guys and girls doing stuff out there that I just, you know, you hear it and you're like, wow, I just didn't even think to do that with these guys, you know, the kind of crazy synthesis stuff and crazy sequence stuff. And anyway, they're very versatile boxes. So my point being is that don't sleep on the older ones because they are still very capable. And if you are curious, I meant to say this earlier, if you are curious how I have this nice black with white lettering screen, which is way better than the original LCD screen, which I replaced because it was fading out and looking like crap. There is a guy, I will put it in the description when the video is done. His name, he goes by Zigmar, I believe, on Elektronauts. He at one point just put a post out. He lives somewhere in Europe. I can't quite remember where. But he was like, hey, a friend of mine asked me to build some of these, so I built some extra ones just in case as I was making them, if anybody wants to buy some. And people went nuts, and I ordered them. They end up being, I think, 200 and some bucks to get them shipped and get them over here from Europe. Probably a lot more now, thanks to you-know-who. But it's still worth it, especially if your screens are just fading out. If you were to replace with the original style LCD ones, those ones will fade eventually too. And hey, these might have as well, but what he did, I remember too, is he said that he actually set it up so you can replace them easily without even desoldering. You can get a new kind of like screen itself. You could change out colors and all that stuff, but all I wanted was black to match my Octatrack MK2, and they are lovely. They're really, really good. And it is worth the investment if you own these already and the screen is fading, because I can see it from almost my face on top of the Octatrack. I can see the rhythm screen relatively clearly. And you could not do that with the LCDs. You need to be kind of like right in front of them. If you start shifting to the left or right, dude, good luck. So for on stage or whatever you're doing, I highly recommend. They are OLED as well. They are not LCD, they're OLED. The only catch is that Elektron was smart enough in the machines that they have by factory standard with OLEDs to set up the what do you call it, the fade. It turns the screen off after so long, because OLEDs can get screen burn-in. This was never designed to have an OLED in it, so there is nothing in the firmware that tells it to do that. So just keep in mind. That's why occasionally I've been reaching over here and just changing the page. I'm probably being overprotective, but you know, like every 30 minutes I might reach over and just change the page if I'm not using it. And since these are all kind of hardwired together in an enclosed box, I can't turn them on individually. So anyway, I'll put that in the description if you are interested. Altogether, though, I will say that these are amazing devices. The Analog Four is an amazing synthesizer. It is worth your consideration. You can get them very cheap. You can even get secondhand MK2s pretty cheap. God, I think under $800, maybe even under, no, probably like 8 or 9, I think, on average. Everything's gone up a little bit, so maybe they're going up too, but they're a little bit bigger, a little bit more bass frequency, apparently, supposedly. and very capable, but effectively I think almost the exact same machine. Might have a few more performance things. I did forget to mention about the performance knobs on this thing, but we'll do that in another video. So cool. All right, I know I've talked a lot. I appreciate anybody who stayed around and checked it out. I hope you all have a good night. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hopefully I'll see you next week.